Today's video is one that I was tagged in by Darko from Kindles and Kicks, and it's my favourite people tag. So let's do this. Okay, hello book family, welcome back to Through the Page with D. So today's video I was tagged in by Darko from Kindles and Kicks, and it's a tag that was created by Gareth from Books, Songs and Other Magic. So I've been tagged in this and it's my favourite people tag. So question 1. Who's your favourite author? Now, I will inform you guys that I'm not going to be able to make just one choice in this. So I'm sorry about that, but I have admiration for a lot of people. So it's very difficult for me to just pick one. So you'll have to bear with me, guys, because there's quite a few people who I have to mention when I'm doing this tag. So, first off, favourite author. I've got to start with Angela Soma Bodenberg. That was the author of my childhood favourite book called The Little Vampire Takes a Trip. Probably nobody knows of that book, but I must say to you all that that book had the most bent, curved, crushed edges to it because I took it everywhere. My mum bought it for me from a book fair at school when I was about 9 years old, something like that. And I adored that book. I loved it. I took it everywhere that I went, and I must have read that book over 50 times. I must have. It was my absolute favourite. So, following on from Angela, I have a love for Charles Dickens. I love anything Dickens. And I also found a new author who I am very, very fond of with his work, and that is John Gwynne. So those are my favourite authors. Then it's comedy actor or comedian. Again, couldn't pick just one, so I've got a few choices here. So first off, I'm going to mention one of my most favourite females, which is Melissa McCarthy. I think Melissa McCarthy is hilarious in anything that she makes. I've watched every single film she's been in, and I love her in everything. She makes me cry laughing. I love her. Next, I watched his video when I was probably in my late teens. It was Stand Up, and that's Eddie Murphy. That man too makes me cry with laughter, especially Eddie Murphy Raw, where he talks about his mum making him a hamburger and all the other kids are having McDonald's, and he's just got this big, sloppy, Wonder Bread, homemade burger with peppers and grease, and it's just so funny. It makes me laugh so much. I'm laughing now thinking about it. Oh dear. And then my other favourite is Ricky Gervais. I have a very similar sense of humour to Ricky Gervais, quite morbid, quite out there, probably quite shocking, but he does make me laugh. He makes me laugh quite a lot. So then, who's your favourite serious actor or actress or actors? I have to say, and I know Pat said somebody very similar, which was Tom Hanks. For me, Tom Hanks held the film Castaway majoritively on his own, talking to a ball, and I watched and my eyes were glued and I never turned away. So for me, an actor who can hold your attention for that amount of time just talking to a football or a basketball or whatever it was on a deserted island, oh my goodness, that is an actor for me. And The Green Mile, and we could go on and on and on naming films, but Tom Hanks is up there as a serious actor. He is phenomenal. So Tom Hanks. Then I have Emma Thompson. I love Emma Thompson. There's a particular scene in Love Actually where she finds out that her husband, who is played by Alan Rickman, is almost thinking about cheating on her and he's bought a different gift for a different woman. And she goes upstairs and she plays, I think it's Eva Cassidy, and the way she acts that scene, I cry every single time. She touches my heart and I cry every time. Then I do also have to mention Anna Hathaway. I think in Les Mis, Anne Hathaway steals the show. At the very end, it breaks my heart. I literally flood with tears when Hugh Jackman and her are singing, and especially the scene where she cuts all her hair off. Oh, she's so good. She's so good. And then I have to give another mention to Chadwick Boseman, who was taken too soon, and Black Panther is one of my absolute favourite Marvel films. I love that film, but he was taken far too soon, and it really upsets me that he was taken, because I know he has done quite a few films, but I just feel that he didn't have the time to show us truthfully his capabilities, so he also gets the mention, Chadwick Boseman. Next is favourite political figure. I couldn't pick, again, just one. I had to go with two. There's others I could have thought of, but I thought they might be obvious, and Pat did say one of my slightly obvious choices, which was Abraham Lincoln, but I have to go with the coolest decision I have ever seen made, and what a fantastic guy, what an amazing outlook, what an amazing attitude, and I just adored the fact that he was just an outstanding person, but with so much normality, so much commonality to the common man. He didn't seem as though he was out of place in his presidency, and that's Obama. What a guy. He absolutely deserved that position as president. I thought he was amazing. I don't know much about the American presidential system. Being a Brit, I have no concept of how that's worked out. But I found that awesome. I love that guy. I think he's cool. And to me, there couldn't have been a better choice at the time. I thought that was the most perfect choice to make was Obama. So I had to go with Obama. I had to. And for our own sakes, here in the Brits, or here with the Brits, I should say, I had to go with Winston Churchill. Purely for actually what that man went through prior to becoming the leader of the Conservative Party and running the country of England. He, I don't know if you know, but was actually a author and received a Nobel Prize for his literature. But he was also a prisoner of war in the Boer War. He was a journalist reporting back on the Boer War, and he was captured. So when the war happened, he had some insight as to the effects that has to be a prisoner of war. So I have admiration for Winston Churchill to come out of that and continue his life and strive for bigger and better things. I have huge admiration for anybody who continues on and strives for bigger and better. Then we move on to favourite film writer or director. Again, can't just choose one. So I've got James Wan, who is my current, although it seems he stepped away from it for a moment, but James Wan is my favourite kind of horror thriller director. He did Insidious and The Conjuring, and I adore those films, even though they're not technically horror. I just love the way they're filmed and the way they were made. I thought they were fantastic. And then we've got Scorsese, because Shutter Island is a phenomenal film. An honourable mention to Leonardo DiCaprio in that film. What a fantastic part he plays, and Mark Ruffalo. It's just an awesome film to watch. It's one of my favourites, and I never get bored of watching it. I can watch it over and over again, and still to this day at the end, I still question, does he realise or doesn't he? I constantly go back and forth with how I feel about that. I'm never 100% certain, like, yes, he knows, or no, he really doesn't know. I'm never 100% certain, and that's why I love that film, because it's still, to this day, even though I've probably seen it maybe 20 times, I'm still guessing, does he know or not? Fantastic film. Now, this one took me a while. I really struggled, and again, me and Pat have got very similar answers, because Pat was also tagged by Darko. So I watched Pat's video and I was like, I've said that. I've said that. We're both saying the same things. But I have to agree with her as far as New Discovery is BookTube. Number one, I didn't expect to come on and get viewers. I didn't expect that to happen. Number two, I didn't expect it to open up my reading library as much as it has. I didn't expect to delve into the realms of fantasy in quite the way that I have. So that's been amazing. And number 3, I certainly did not expect to make friends, like literal friends, who you have a conversation with back and forth away from YouTube. I mean, comments. You're actually talking to them on a different platform. I didn't expect that to happen. And I've reached out to people and I've got conversation back, and I didn't expect that to be the case. The only other thing that I can say is new to me, that is a discovery that I found I quite enjoy, is the tech that's involved with YouTube. I was very daunted by it. I didn't think I was going to be capable of doing it, but between myself and my daughter, we've managed quite a lot. We've evolved from the very start, even though we've not been here very long. We have made evolvements, and I'm quite impressed with myself and with Jocelyn as to how far we've actually come at this point. Granted, you have to give us a forgiveness for the live that we did last night on my birthday, because I am filming this a day in front of when it's going to be posted. So we do apologise for that. Fault on our end, I think. But other than that, yeah, we're thoroughly enjoying investigating the tech and sussing it out, and how do we wire everything up together and, you know, create this unique kind of, or we hope it's unique anyway, kind of channel, and do things that may be a bit different than anyone else. We're probably not. We're probably just delusional and think that we are, but those are my 2 discoveries that I found quite interesting. Then next is your favourite musician or singer. Without hesitation, Freddie Mercury goes right to the top of that list. He is the most phenomenal singer I have ever heard. His voice and his range is ridiculous. His vocal range is ridiculous. And the fact that he wrote a good majority of the songs for Queen just shows you the talent that he had. And Roger Daltrey and the rest of the guys were not wrong for going with Freddie. And the film as well, Bohemian Rhapsody. I think Rami Malek played a fantastic part. He absolutely encapsulated Freddie Mercury. But what a guy. I hold him very dear to my heart. Everything that he went through with regards to AIDS and everything he suffered and how he ploughed on, he is an absolute favourite of mine. I also have to say James Bay. Myself and my daughter, my youngest girl, went to watch James Bay sometime last year in Sheffield, and then myself, my daughter and my other daughter also went to watch James Bay in Manchester, and he's just phenomenal live. He sounds better live than he does recorded, and he's got such a great attitude. He really gets the party going, and I really enjoyed that performance. So James Bay has to be mentioned. An obvious woman who I admire, I sometimes mirror my image on, is Stevie Nicks. I adore Stevie Nicks. I have done for years. I love everything about her, how she dresses, the songs that she's written. I adore Stevie Nicks. She is who I aspire to look like, is Stevie Nicks. And then I was thinking about music that I used to listen to in my car when I had a car and I was driving. And I have to mention Missy Elliott. When you buy an album, sometimes there's songs you don't quite like on an album, so you skip them. And the album I had, I can't remember the title of it right now, but the album I had, I don't remember skipping one single song. And by the end of that particular time with that car, I think I knew the words to every single song on that album. So I have to say Missy Elliott as well. Then we go on to favourite inspirational person. Okay. I firstly have to say, for out there person, as in not anything to do with me, kind of famous, it has to be Mammy Till Mowbray from the film Till, who exposed the treatment and the lynching of her 14-year-old son Emmett, and what she did to prove her point, and how she sacrificed herself and her own feelings in relation to having the open casket of her son, so that everybody who attended and journalists could see just how badly her son had been beat over nothing. Really, really moved me. And the fact that that woman had that power of character to do that touched me, got me in the feels. So I have to say, Mammy Till is one of the inspirational people for me. Then I have to go a bit closer to home. And I have to say, my dad. My dad had one heck of a life. He went through some stuff. He was an orphan. He was orphaned because of the war. He was born in 1940. There's so much I could say. It's a very big story. There's lots of twists and turns and things you would never expect somebody to go through and a child to go through, and then things of a young adult to go through. But my dad went through a lot. And even though he went through all of that, and he passed when he was 74, so 10 years ago now, 14th of this month it'll be 10 years, me and him sharing our stories together finally opened us up to who we were, and we were able to get a closer, stronger connection with each other because we had very similar lives without even knowing it. And he inspired me because through everything, every single adversity that my dad had gone through, he was a better man, he was a stronger man. He was just a moral compass of how you should live your life and who you should be and how you should treat others. And he was just amazing. I adored that man wholeheartedly. So I have to say my dad. And then I also have to say my daughters inspire me every single day. I was a certain person at a certain age because of life traumas and such. And when you become a mum, that changes you as a person. You now have a responsibility and you have to change yourself. You can't be who you was. You have to become something new. And having my first daughter, we went through some trials and tribulations. She was born by emergency C-section. It was said that she may have cysts on her ovaries, and in fact she actually didn't. She had an abnormal kidney. There was like scar tissue on her kidney, and she was the first that they'd ever seen of this, and they wanted to sort of, as it was to me in my opinion then, be a little bit of a guinea pig to medical science. And she was my first child. I was young myself, I was only 20, and I wasn't prepared for any of that. So because of the fear, I didn't want her being put under general anaesthetic and poked and prodded and researched. So we said no to that. And then as she's got older, we've noticed other things like dyslexia and autism. And she has, educationally, she's struggled. Even in her work life, she's struggled. But you would never know it. You would never know to watch her get up and go to her job. And she's lost quite a few jobs through no doing of her own because the businesses have crashed or because they basically just closed down very recently. She got made redundant, the business closed, and she's had to fight for her wages. And it's all these things that I watch her doing where I sit in admiration of the person that she is and her attitude and the love that she has for people. She has such a big heart. She is such a caring individual. She will do anything for anyone. And this isn't necessarily anything that I've taught her. This is just who she is as a person. She has the biggest heart I have ever seen. My other daughter, Phoebe, also has gone through a lot. She was born when they had to resuscitate her after I had, again, an emergency C-section. I clearly just don't give birth. It doesn't happen. So both my daughters were C-sections, emergency, and she didn't cry basically when she was born, and they rushed her to me and then rushed her away. And I could hear the panic going on, so I'm panicking as they're trying to, fix me back up and etc. And then we came home, stuff happened at home, we had to go back, and she was diagnosed with heart failure to start with. Her heart was practically the size of her chest. So if you can imagine a little baby and that's their chest and rib cage, her heart was there. It was huge. So they got her in IVs and nasal feeds, and because she was just sleeping all the time, she didn't cry, she didn't do anything, she just slept all the time and she wasn't feeding. So we rushed her to hospital, we had this x-ray of her chest, we found this out. So initially she was treated for heart failure. Further down the line, further tests, we found out it was kidney failure. So I'm talking, we was in the hospital for 4 weeks at this point, and I lived with her. I stayed there, I didn't leave. So I lived with Phoebe in the hospital for 4 weeks, and then we finally found out she had kidney failure, and this was causing everything. And so we had the kidney removed, and she made vast improvements. But in the meantime, we did learn how to have to nasal feed her and give her meds through the nasal tube and clean the nasal tube and potentially change it, just in case we had to bring her home like that. And she was on steroids and beta blockers, and she was on all sorts. And then she's coming up for 21. She'll be 21 in a matter of 10 days. And from where she was as a child and to where she is now, and the person that she is, and how she is at 17 moved to a different city to go to university and has been there now for 3 years and wants to stay there and is very independent and has her life together, and just impresses me every single day with her choices in life and how she makes the correct adult choices. She gets a job, she saves like mad, and that goes to one side and she doesn't touch it, and she's very savvy with her money. All the clothing is literally bought second hand from charity shops. She never splurges on herself. The only thing she splurges on is going to concerts because, as she says it, these are memories. These are times to make memories of. And she's all about making memories. She's all about being able to look back and say, oh, I had a good time there and I had a good time there. But it's not just that. It's her attitude towards life. Nothing ever gets her down. She's always so positive, and she laughs at mostly everything. She went through phases of fainting, just randomly fainting. We still don't know why that happened. And she just laughs it off. She just gets on with life and nothing. Obviously, she has weights, but you would never know because she laughs and she gets on with it. And the pair of them have taught me a lot and how to be a different person. They've actually educated me how to be a better person, how to open myself up more, how to handle situations better, just how to be a better adult. And that's my children who have taught me that. So those are why I have to mention them rather than anybody else, because they are my inspiration. They are what's the driving force behind me on a daily basis. They're the reason I get out of bed. Even though I have days where that's difficult and I have health ailments, they're the reason that I get up, because I want to see where they get to as grown women and what their lives are going to be like. So those are my inspirational people. And if I may be so bold at this time, I wanted to add an extra onto this tag. I wanted to add favourite musical, just because I love this musical. Again, this kind of relates back to Freddie Mercury, and it's the musical Rent, and it's about to some extent the fight with AIDS, and at the time, and it's a group of friends and everything they're going through, and it's got the lady who did the voice of Elsa singing in Frozen. It is fantastic musical, so I just needed to mention that as well, because I have watched that musical I don't know how many times on television, but I've never watched it live, and I would love to watch it live. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that one in there as well. I've had a lot of fun doing this. As I said, I couldn't narrow it down to less than maybe 3 or 4 per question, because there's so much inspiration in the world. There's so many favourites. I just couldn't make the list any smaller. So I apologise if I've bored the living daylights out of you. But that's me. I have a lot of admiration for a lot of people. So, finally, who are you going to tag? I have a few. Firstly, I would like to tag Sochi Azur, and his channel is Sochi Azur. He is a recent booktuber I've come across, and I think his content is fantastic. And if he would love to participate, I would be very interested in watching Sochi and who his favourite people are. I'm absolutely certain he can tell us very inspirational people and some favourites that we may not have heard of. So, Sochi, I would like to tag you. Then I would also like to tag Chantal from Chantal's Shelf Life. She's, again, a new booktuber. I've watched quite a few of her videos. I think she's a lovely, lovely girl. Gives great reviews on books. So I'd like to see what Chantal's favourite people are. Then I've also got Epic Tales. So Epic, I would love to hear your views on who favourite people are. So I'm going to tag you. Then I would also like to tag, and I'm afraid I don't know her name. If she's ever mentioned it, I've missed it. But there's this lovely new booktuber who has the channel called Coffee, Books and Rain. And she does some fantastic reviews of slightly different indie books. and I'd like to tag her because I'd like to hear what her thoughts are to favourite people. And she's lovely. If you get the chance, give her a watch. She just has these lovely ways about reviewing, and it's very intimate and very cosy, and it's lovely to watch. Then two of who we know, because I've looked through the videos and I haven't seen that they've done this. So I would like to tag Mr John Minton from Talking Story. And I would also like to tag, finally, my little buddy Britton from Some Okie Dude. And those are my people. Those are my tags. If you've already done this and I've mistakenly missed it, I apologise. Ignore my request. That's fine. No offence taken. It's fine. If you haven't, but yet it's not your thing, again, no offence taken. That's absolutely fine. And if you do, I can't wait to watch it. I really can't wait to see, because this is really interesting, and I found both Darko's and Pat's so entertaining. I was really interested to find out who their favourite people are, and it's surprising, and it's no wonder you end up talking to these specific people, because you have very similar tastes. Darko's answers were a lot like mine, so I had to change them, and then I'd already wrote my answers down, and I watched Pat's video, and me and Pat had a lot of the same answers, but that's by the by. It just proves that for all the miles that were separated, it doesn't really make that much difference, because ultimately we're all pretty much the same regardless. So that's been me. I've been Dee. That's my favourite people tag. I hope to watch some of the other guys if they get round to it. I'm very excited to see what people they say. And so for now, that's me, and I'm just going to say I'll see you guys through the pages. Bye-bye.